Mr. Mathis will move to Mr. O'Donnell's desk for his special guest introduction related to the resolution. Mr. Mathis, you are recognized.
It is my privilege to have standing with me today some of our military's exceptional female leaders, of whom I'd like to acknowledge. Colonel Laura Yeager. Colonel Yeager's active military service began in May of 1986 after receiving her commission as second lieutenant as a distinguished military graduate from the Reserve Officer Training Corps and Branching Medical Service Corps. Colonel Yeager has served in many capacities, each one more impressive than the former. She has served as a medical platoon leader, aeromedical platoon leader, executive officer, and chief of operations, just to name a few. Colonel Yeager's most recent assignment was as the deputy commanding officer for the 40th Combat Aviation Brigade during its deployment in support of Operation New Dawn 2010 to 2011. She has been awarded countless decorations, including the prestigious Bronze Star Medal. Colonel Yeager currently serves as the Chief of Staff, Joint Staff for the California Military Department. California Army National Guard Staff Sergeant Rebecca Love. Staff Sergeant Rebecca Love enlisted in the California Army National Guard in 2003 as a combat medic and has acquired over 12 years of service. From 2009 to 10, she was deployed as the lead medic in the Kunar province of Afghanistan with the 40th Infantry Division Agribusiness Development Team, the state's first ADT. She is currently assigned to the Joint Force Headquarters here in Sacramento. Technical Sergeant Angela Cobra. Tech Sergeant Cobra is a logistics manager assigned to the 131st Parachute Squadron within the 129th Rescue Wing, California Air National Guard. In this role, Tech Sergeant Cobra is responsible for performing deployment, employment, and logistical command and control processes, as well as establishing and operating control centers. She also maintains a close relationship between operations, logistics, and support organizations to enhance support of combat missions. Tech Sergeant Cobra has deployed twice in support of Operation Enduring Freedom. Chaplain Captain Dana Durham. Captain Durham was directly commissioned in the California Army National Guard in 2008. In 2010 to 2011, as part of the 749th Combat Sustainment Support Battalion, she was deployed to Camp Adder, Iraq, where she supported, cared for, and prayed with over 2,000 service members. She was the first and has been the only female chaplain in the California National Guard to deploy in a combat zone. Captain Durham currently serves as the chaplain for the 1106 Theater Aviation Service Maintenance Group in Fresno. I want to thank this group of exceptional women who are with me today, who put a face to what we are celebrating. Thank you, and thank you for your continued service to our great country.
Okay, members, we are moving to file item number 19. That's H.R. 33. The clerk will read.
House Resolution 33 by Assemblymember Atkins and others relative to the California Earned Income Tax Credit.
Madam Speaker, you may open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. H.R. 33 declares January 22, 2016 Earned Income Tax Credit Day in California. Last year's budget, for the first time in history, included a state earned income tax credit. The credit, which was championed by this Assembly, could potentially be worth $380 million for California's working poor, lifting 50,000 people out of deep poverty. By declaring January 22nd State EITC Day, California can piggyback on the federal Earned Income Tax Program to make sure eligible filers can maximize their refund. More than $1.8 billion of federal EITC dollars have gone unclaimed. Let me repeat that, unclaimed, in California each year, and promoting the new state earned income tax credit will boost awareness and claims for both the state program and the federal EITC program, thereby returning federal dollars to California families and local economies. However, the success of California's EITC program depends on policymakers, public agencies, and community leaders ensuring that all households are eligible for the new credit, know about it, learn about it, and claim it. H.R. 33 will help do just that. I would ask for your support, your aye vote, and Mr. Speaker, at the appropriate time, that the first roll be open for co-authors.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Stone, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, under the supplemental poverty measure, Californians are living in poverty at numbers of 24%. A lot of them are kids, a lot of them are young families, a lot of them are our seniors. These are folks we're charged with taking care of. And for the first time, California is now putting some money to invest in those communities. We joined 25 other states to have our own statewide earned income tax credit. If we can increase the uptake rate, we're talking hundreds of millions of federal dollars coming into California. Now, who are these folks? These are folks who are earning less than $16,000 a year. They're not normally tax filers because they don't make enough. So it is incumbent on all of us to do the outreach, to be a part of this message, bring federal dollars in, put our investment dollars to work in the communities that need it. Because these are communities, when they get the money, they will spend it. And when they spend in their communities, that is probably the single largest economic driver for those communities that we could ever hope for. It's good for the economy. It's good for our families. All of the research around the federal EITC shows improved and increased outcomes for families, better educational outcomes, better social outcomes, less reliance on other public systems. It is a success. It is a win for Californians, and it is something that we should be celebrating. It is something that we should be talking about. It is something we should be encouraging everyone who qualifies to take part of this program. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for bringing this forward. We should all make sure our voices are heard, and I encourage support of this resolution.
Thank you, Ms. Stone. Ms. Brown, you are recognized from your desk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, it's important that our constituents know about this benefit. This is a benefit to prepare as they prepare their taxes, and many who are not going to file taxes, they can file them and get money back. I think sometime when we think about ETC or Earned Income Tax Credit, it doesn't say what it should. It should say, come and you can get a check. Make it real simple whenever you're going out and you're talking to people, because that's what's been happening out there in the community. People don't understand it. We must break it down so that they know that they'll get up to $2,000 back. Thank you very much. Please, I join my colleague from San Diego and ask for support for the Earned Income Tax Credit HR.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Mr. Thurman, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. Thank you, Madam Speaker, and the gentleman from Santa Cruz. I rise in support of H.R. 33. I had the honor as chair of our subcommittee on Health and Human Services to be a part of a hearing where we discussed the need for the EITC and its impact. And I want to thank all the members in this House for your support of the EITC. And if I could, just to share personal experience to add a little context, I grew up in a household raised by a single guardian who worked a lot of jobs, and it still wasn't enough. And we needed programs like public assistance to help us get through. And what I like about the Earned Income Tax Credit is that it promotes dignity. And I'll just be honest, I was embarrassed every time I went into a store and had to show the coupon for the food stamp that was a highly bright color to designate that somehow I was different from every other family. And what I didn't know growing up is that every family in my community was also struggling economically and had the same coupon. What I like about the Earned Income Tax Credit is that it encourages work. And it says that you can get help, but you're earning work through your hard work and your earnings. And I believe that that's something that we should all be able to get behind in this House. What I really appreciate about H.R. 33 is that it recognizes that a lot of people just don't know that this is something that they are entitled to earn and that they have earned, and that awareness is very important so that these very important resources don't go underutilized and are not fully allocated to the benefit of the people of California, who are in turn going to spend more money in local communities. So for all those reasons, I'm honored to offer my support, and I hope that everyone will support H.R. 33 today.
Thank you, Mr. Thurman. Seeing no additional discussion, Madam Speaker, you may close if you wish. Madam Speaker is requesting the first roll be open for co-authors. Clerk will open the roll. All members vote or desire to vote. Members, this is for co-authors to add on H.R. 33. This is for co-authors on H.R. 33, members. The clerk will close the roll. There are 63 co-authors added on H.R. 33. Without objection, we may take a voice vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Moving to file item 20, that's H.R. 32. Clerk will read.
House Resolution 32 by Assemblymember Atkins relative to women's reproductive health.
Madam Speaker, you may again open.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise again to seek your support for H.R. 32. This Friday, January 22nd, marks the 43rd anniversary of Roe v. Wade, the Supreme Court decision recognizing a woman's right to control her own body. Roe v. Wade has facilitated women's participation in the workforce, her ability to plan for and care for a family, and it has drastically reduced maternal mortality rates in this country. Prior to the decision, illegal abortion accounted for approximately 17% of all reported deaths attributable to pregnancy and childbirth in the United States. Unfortunately, abortion remains illegal in many countries today, a travesty that leads to 13% of global maternal deaths annually, or 8 maternal deaths every hour. These statistics confirm that Roe v. Wade has been a lifesaver for women in this country. Thus, it's frightening to watch the constant barrage of attacks on the protections and the freedoms afforded by the Roe v. Wade decision. Fortunately, many of these attacks have been thwarted in California. Yet even in California, we must do more to ensure that women have access to safe abortions. More than half of California's counties do not have an accessible abortion provider, so some women have to travel 5 hours by bus or train. In urban areas, the demand for services results in long waits. These challenges can force women to wait until more advanced stages of their pregnancy before obtaining an abortion, leading to an increased risk of medical complications. And that's why I authored AB 154 last year, which broadened the types of health professionals permitted to perform abortion services in the first trimester. And I want to thank all of those that supported this bill. It's been an important step forward, but there's still more to be done. As this week is a landmark in the women's movement, we must also keep looking forward to continue to protect women's health and women's right to choose. So I would ask you to join me in commemorating this monumental decision by publicly confirming California's strong support of a woman's right to make her own reproductive decisions, and by urging our federal government to support reproductive choice as well as access to comprehensive reproductive health care, including the services provided by Planned Parenthood. I would ask for your aye vote on H.R. 32.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ms. Grove, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, you're being asked today to celebrate the 43rd anniversary of the U.S. Supreme Court's landmark decision that forced all 50 states to legalize abortion. I know many of you in this room sincerely believe that abortion rights are the cornerstone of women's rights. Others in this room are uncomfortable with abortion altogether, but don't think that you have the right to prevent others from having one. No one doubts the sincerity of your beliefs. No one doubts the sincerity of the other side's beliefs. But I think we can all agree that it's possible to be sincerely wrong. I ask you for a few moments to have an open mind and be willing to consider a different perspective regarding what's being asked to celebrate today. House Resolution 32 is asking you to celebrate a court decision that resulted in the legal killing of 58 million unborn human beings in the United States since 1973. California is one of the most pro-abortion states in the nation. Unlike other states, California has no waiting periods. It permits minor children as young as 12 years old to receive an abortion without parental consent or even notifying their parents. And this state uses millions of taxpayer dollars every year to fund abortions. Here in California, it's perfectly legal to have an abortion simply because you want a baby boy instead of a baby girl. And medical standards have been lowered so abortions no longer have to be performed by doctors. California is also one of the only states in the union requiring health insurance plans to cover abortion. That means that every church, synagogue, temple, or pro-life religious group like the Roman Catholic Guadalupean Sisters who serve the poor and vulnerable in Los Angeles are forced to skim off the top from their donations every week to pay for a procedure that they find horrific and a violation of their religious faith. There are Christian pastors and leaders, religious leaders in the gallery today that are in the same situation. As a result of these policies, California is ranked number 1 out of 50 states for the number 1 in abortions that are performed every year. In 2011, 182,000 unborn children never saw the light of day. This resolution, H.R. 32, has you celebrate this. It also has you celebrate Planned Parenthood, the country's largest abortion provider, that was recently exposed for illegal profiting from the sale of unborn baby organs. I'm sure that you've all heard about the videos recorded at Planned Parenthood executives in California around the country discussing the financial benefits of selling little baby hearts, lungs, livers, and brains. These videos also included testimony from a former employee from STEM Express, a biomedical facility less than 50 miles from the state capital, that provided research laboratories with aborted organs that bought from Planned Parenthood clinics. The employee accused Planned Parenthood and STEM Express of illegally taking aborted baby organs without the consent of the mother. But even more disturbingly, the former employee accused Planned Parenthood...
Mr. Holden, please state your point of order.
Mr. Speaker, I think that it's important that the Speaker stay confined to the resolution as it's stated, that it is at this point drifting into other areas that I think are out of order.
Mr. Holden, the point of order is well taken. Ms. Grove, you may continue if you'll confine your comments to the resolution before us. We would appreciate it. You may continue.
With all due respect, Planned Parenthood is in there, and it specifically mentions them in the resolution. I've read the language. It's lines items 12 through 18 if you have any other questions. But this STEM Express employee was also forced to cut a live baby boy, fully delivered at term, or aborted at term, while its heart was still beating, from its chin to its brain, to the top of its head to harvest its brain and later sell to the research institution. That's very disturbingly. It's very sad. They said the baby was still alive. I want you to know that California Safety Code Section 123435, an infant prematurely born alive in the course of an abortion has the same rights to medical treatment as a baby born spontaneously or any other way. This House resolution would have you close your eyes to the atrocity and celebrate the organization responsible. I do find it astonishing what this legislative body will celebrate. We protect bobcats and sharks and whales and elephants and rhinos and delta smelt and salmon. Yet you can't bring yourselves to consider a human life being snuffed out by abortion. These are not values that I want associated with women's rights. As a woman, we should celebrate defending the rights of our children, not demanding the right to decide whether they live or die.
30 seconds, Ms. Grove.
Well, we think a lot about equality in this chamber, equality for the races, equality for the sexes, equality for each human being before the law. What about a mother or a child? You might think that an unborn baby doesn't have the fully human status, so it doesn't have the same rights as someone outside the womb, but that's just a location issue. But if you've ever seen an ultrasound, you know that there's a heartbeat, and that's why Planned Parenthood tries to stop legislation to not allow a heartbeat to be shown to the mother before they have an abortion. I close with this statement from Mother Teresa. America needs no words from me to see how your decision in Roe versus Wade has deformed a great nation. The so-called right to abortion has pitted mothers against children and women against men. It's shown violence to discord and a heart to the most intimate human relationships. It has aggravated the degradation of the father's role in increasingly fatherless society and portrayed one of the greatest gifts, a child, as a competitor, an intrusion, and an inconvenience. I ask for your no vote.
Mr. Cooper, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Madam Speaker and members, I rise today in support of H.R. 32. As a proud father of 4 daughters, I strongly believe that every woman has the fundamental right to control her own reproductive decisions. Friday marks the 43rd anniversary of the landmark Supreme Court decision, Roe v. Wade. Before the Supreme Court's landmark decision, women had no choice but to pursue illegal abortions. These women did not do so lightly or without a great deal of thought, especially given the potential deadly outcomes for them. In 1930, abortion was listed as the official cause of death for nearly 1/5 of maternal deaths recorded. One of these women was my grandmother, the proud mother of 7 children. She, like thousands of other women, resorted to the only option she had, an illegal back alley abortion, which ultimately claimed her life. My mother was only 7 years old at that time. Colleagues, I urge you to support a woman's right to a safe, accessible reproductive option, as well as supporting the critical health care services provided by Planned Parenthood. I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Mr. Patterson, members, if you would like to be recognized, please raise your microphones so I can see them.
Thank you.
Mr. Patterson, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I'm going to express an alternative point of view that most on this floor would hold. I do so out of deep respect for the decisions that must be made in these kinds of life-altering circumstances. I know that you know our story. Our story is one of standing at the bedside of a 37-year-old birth mother who decided, because there was a life virtue in their family and in their circumstances, in other words, they were given full information about the options and the choices, including giving life and adopting. We've stood at the bedside of a 16-year-old who was in the midst of an untimely and unwanted pregnancy. And again, because there was a voice, there was full disclosure of information necessary to make this decision. This decision was made for life. You'll recall that a year and a half ago, I requested permission to leave the floor because my daughter Lindsay was giving birth to our 3rd grandchild. And I have at home on the wall a photograph of Leston. It was an ultrasound profile. And right next to it is a profile of Leston, probably 8, 10, 12 weeks old. The profiles are identical because they are the same thing. It is a reminder to Sharon and to me what is at stake. So I don't rise to suggest that my point of view, or the point of view of millions of Californians, or the point of view of tens of millions of Americans, might change our decision here on this floor. What I do ask is for us to take the opportunity that this information and this opportunity provides, is to think about what Californians can do to encourage adoption and childbirth, to help women understand there are alternatives to the absolute and irrevocable decision to abort. The biology and science, evidenced by the ultrasound, evidenced by all we know about growing human beings, is that there is this challenge. And I respect and understand the difficulty of an untimely and unwanted pregnancy. I cannot understand it as a male, but I certainly can understand it as a father and a grandfather, the direct result of people who made tough choices because they had options and they had full information about what it was that was at stake. And so, members, I'm hoping that we will present resolutions and celebrate birth, that we would present resolutions and celebrate life, and that we would be every bit as joyous when someone is given the option and the choice and acts upon that choice for life. We can do a lot of things beyond merely providing what amounts to an absolute and irrevocable decisions. There is much at stake here, and so this gives us a chance to recognize, I hope, and understand that apart from the decisions of a Supreme Court, apart from the political discussions that we have, there is something deeper and much more profound at stake. It is life that is hanging in the balance. Thank you.
Mr. Gallagher, you are recognized from your desk.
Members, the fight for individual liberties and rights has often been long and arduous, but justice is nothing if not persistent. And certainly that has been the case in recognizing the equal rights of women. From the suffragists who fought to secure the vote, to the rights of property being recognized, to the more modern fights of the ability to serve in our armed forces, and the principle that if a woman does the same job and works the same hours, she better receive the same pay. Some will try to use this resolution as a litmus test for women's rights. They seek to use it as a political tool, as a way to divide us versus them. If this resolution were purely about women's rights, I would stand with you in solidarity and support. Many of you know I have 2 young daughters, 9 and 7, and you better believe that I want them to have every opportunity that my son has. I hope that, God willing, my wife and I will be able to raise those daughters to be women who have the attributes of the women I serve in this great assembly with. But I cannot support this resolution because of what's missing from this resolution. And many of us cannot stand in support because it's seared on our conscience that another's rights are also involved here, the rights of the unborn child. Roe itself recognized that there must be a balancing of the rights of the unborn, and yet the law has never fully recognized or reconciled those rights. And as a result, the law and justice is incomplete. We can no longer ignore these rights. Science and technology have revealed the truth. Not just a fetus, but arms, legs, a heart, a person. And so now I speak to my friends in this great assembly, and I say friends instead of colleagues, because I think after this year that I've served, we've built a relationship more than just an acquaintance. And I've heard your heart, and usually our disagreements aren't about the ends, they're usually about the means. We agree on the ends of justice and liberty and equality and better opportunities for our constituents. We agree on all of those ends, but where we disagree is on the means. And I've heard your heart about trying to lift up the downtrodden, about trying to make visible the invisible, about being a voice for the voiceless. You know, just this morning I had the opportunity to tour a neonatal clinic. And there I see how, with our modern technology, with all that we've been blessed with in this country, we are working every day to maximize the health and life of both the mother and the child. Earlier and earlier in time, we're able to take these children born maybe at 22, 23 weeks and preserve that life. We're using technology to maximize that. How come our policy has not? How come our law has not tried to maximize the rights of both? Just last year, we recognized the right to die. Can we now deny that there's a right to live? Just because one lacks a voice doesn't mean they lack a will. It doesn't mean they lack rights. Can we be a voice for the voiceless? I know we're all going to vote how we're going to vote today. It's going to be a political vote. But what I would ask is that after today, hopefully what I'm saying to you, hopefully you hear my heart, that I think we should be thinking a whole lot more about the rights of the unborn child and how do we respect and reconcile those rights.
30
because,
seconds, Mr. Gallagher.
Like this resolution, we've ignored it. And we can no longer ignore it. If we choose to ignore it, I submit to you, I submit to this body, that you stand on the wrong side of history. Because the fight for rights is long and arduous, but justice is nothing if not persistent. Thank you, members.
Ms. Waldron, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. When this resolution came, I felt I just had to speak because, as was mentioned, who would speak for the voiceless? The humanity of the unborn child. This resolution celebrates the anniversary of our Roe v. Wade, 43 years. Life is a gift, and we are the lucky ones. We drew the long straw. There's millions of others who didn't. I waited till my 4th decade to have my first child. I didn't wait. We wanted to have children. We tried to go the adoption route. When he finally was born, he ended up in the NICU. So even at the end, I almost lost him. There's loving families everywhere that would love to have kids. They're ending up going overseas because it's so difficult to adopt here. But God loves us first. He's created each of us for a specific purpose. He has a will for all of us. There's no phrase more sad than the phrase unwanted child. Unwanted child. Roe v. Wade supports that. In a world that's hurting, we don't need more confusion, violence, or death. What we need is life, and we need love. For a young woman in a crisis pregnancy, we should not celebrate that our solution to her is a violent act. A violent act on her body, on her soul, a violent act on her unborn child. We need to celebrate life, celebrate adoption, celebrate love. The unseen and the unheard, they're still human. I can't support the resolution. Thank you.
Mr. David Chu, you are recognized.
Thank you, colleagues. And first of all, I want to appreciate the discussion that we're having today and thank Madam Speaker for moving this resolution forward to commemorate the fact that 43 years ago, the Supreme Court made a decision in Roe v. Wade in granting American women the right to a legal abortion. A pivotal moment for constitutional rights, granting women more control over their health care, and freeing them from the risks of backstreet abortions. 43 years ago, it was those women who were voiceless. 4 decades later, this constitutional right remains under attack. As we know, in recent months, it's become a gruesomely politicized issue. There have been numerous attempts to create more obstacles to exercise a right to a legal and safe abortion. There have been 135 laws passed in the United States in the last 2 years to do that, which shows just how fragile our constitutional rights can be. And we know that this Supreme Court precedent is not just about reproductive rights. It's about economic justice. It's about access to health care. It's about gender equality. It's about immigrant rights and so much more. And to celebrate this right, we have to do all that we can to ensure that it's not being chipped away. I want to thank this body for supporting a bill that I sponsored last year with our colleague from the 62nd District in Los Angeles to ensure that all women can make reproductive choices based on information that is scientifically accurate and timely. Because as you know, in part, we worked on this legislation to address that there are hundreds of so-called crisis pregnancy centers around the state of California that will tell a pregnant woman who walks in through its doors that an abortion will cause breast cancer, will cause infertility, will cause depression, will potentially cause you to want to commit suicide. As we celebrate this day, we need to recognize the task ahead of us. It is our responsibility as legislators to ensure that our next generations know their rights and have their rights. And with that, I ask for an aye vote.
Ms. Burke, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. On behalf of the Legislative Women's Caucus, but also as a mother who has struggled to have a child of her own, I value nothing more than the life of a child. Roe versus Wade does not take away choice, but it provides it. It has been the cornerstone of our rights as women to control our own reproductive rights and allows every woman to decide when, if, and with whom they will have children. While other states have rolled back women's rights, California remains a steadfast leader in protecting our rights to choose. Generations of lawmakers have worked tirelessly on this floor to improve access to care, and yet even today, we're still facing attacks on the protections and freedoms afforded by Roe v. Wade. Roe v. Wade is not just about abortion, but it is also about the health and welfare of women across this country. It is vital to the preservation of women's rights, personal freedom, bodily integrity, and privacy. We may never agree on Roe v. Wade, but we can all do a better job of improving health care for women in California. I hope you will join me in renewing our pledge to protect women's health and every woman's right to choose. This is not political. As a woman, I take this very seriously. This is personal.
Mr. Alejo, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members. I also rise in support of this resolution. And I wanted to respond to some of the comments of my colleague from Kern County and also my colleague who graduated the same law school I did at Martin Luther King Hall in Davis. But it's often hard when we celebrate these moments of celebrating a women's right to choose, that we hear the comments that we do even in 2015. Because often on this floor, we hear from our colleagues to profess that they uphold and defend the Constitution, but yet slander it when it's not convenient to their own personal point of view. Ever since this case was decided, there's been challenge after challenge at our nation's highest court, and Roe v. Wade has been defended, has been upheld. So this is about defending the rights guaranteed under our Constitution, whether explicitly or implied within the penumbras of our Constitution. And we cannot have it both ways, claim that we defend it and uphold it and its decisions, its body of law, and yet want to strike it down in occasions such as this. I ask that we all support this resolution today.
All debate having ceased on the resolution, Madam Speaker, you may close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thanks to my colleagues for the discussion. You know, I would agree there is a great deal at stake. You know, and I am proud of the fact that the rate of the need for abortion has gone down, primarily in part because of the information provided by healthcare providers on access to birth control and options, all options. And that's a good thing. But I would say, why the need to do this every year? Well, I don't think we'd have a need to have this discussion every year. But we've seen time and time again that there is no limit to what some will not do to invade the privacy of a woman and her family during the most important personal decision they might ever be faced with. This latest campaign is no different. You know, from fake clinics being bombed, doctors and workers and clients being killed. You know, California is on the front line of protecting women's lives and supporting our civil rights. And I long for the day that we will not have to stand up and have a discussion about someone trying to take away an option to get the information we need and the service, whatever. I urge you to support this resolution today. Thank you.
Members, this will be a roll call vote on the resolution. The clerk will open the roll. All members vote who desire to vote. 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 The clerk will close the roll. Tally the vote. Ayes 51, noes 21. The resolution is adopted. Moving to the consent calendar. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent calendar? Seeing and hearing none, clerk will read the second day consent calendar.